All right, moving right along. Our next speaker comes all the way from Oregon. Or is he in Washington? I always forget. He's in one of those two states. But he's an absolute expert in lead generation, telemarketing, using virtual assistants to be able to tackle more workload. He runs Lead Heroes, is also Hire Heroes, which is his VA company. And I want to bring him up here because he's going to drop some great knowledge for you guys, and I'm super excited to hear from him. Mr. Glen Shelton.
Thank you, Tony. Hey, mic check, sweet. It's working. I'm super excited to be here, you guys. Christian, thank you so much for putting on this event and having everyone out here. I do want to start with a warning, though, you guys. Specifically, a warning on what happens when you work with Christian Brindle. You're going to see in my presentation today some pictures of me from before I knew Christian. And you're going to see that I actually still had hair at that point. And now, here we are. And you can see I've already lost all my hair. So be aware, if you end up working with Christian long term, you could end up looking like me, which ultimately you end up looking like him. So, man, what a great speaker lineup. I'm just kind of basking in the presence of the greatness of the Medicare industry, of all of the keynote speakers that have presented today. So I'm hoping I can keep the bar high and really give you guys some value. So the title of my presentation, How to Earn a 1,000% ROI Through Outsourcing Your Low Revenue Generating Activities. So when I initially was kind of crafting this, I was thinking how it almost sounds like an MLM or some type of marketing scheme, right? Like it sounds too good to be true. 1,000% ROI. There we go. So 1,000% ROI, that is a 10 times return on investment. So that would be handing someone $1 and they're handing you back $10. The quote I have here, it's talking about a 10-bagger, right? So that's very hard to do. I mean, who has a stock portfolio where you're seeing a 10 times return on your money? No, nobody. Okay, so this is a huge opportunity, right? Huge. Tracy's shaking his head at me. I hope I'm not making annuities look bad up here, my friend. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about me. So you'll see a picture up here. That is The Wolf of Wall Street. So 2013, when this movie came, who's seen The Wolf of Wall Street, by the way? Almost everybody, yeah. Fantastic movie. I love Leonardo DiCaprio. I was working at a little company called Verizon Wireless. You guys may have heard of it. I was in the top 10% of their sales force, and I was making good money. I wasn't upset. After benefits and commission and my base salary, I was easily making six figures. But there was this, really the one lingering problem I had is that their commission system was capped. So they literally had a system in place where once you sold a certain amount of product, you couldn't earn any more money. So the best salespeople, what they would do, the game they would play, is the first 2 to 3 weeks of every month, they'd hit it really hard. They'd work extra hours, they'd come in on days off, and they would take the last week and a half off. And at first, I learned that game, I got into it, and it was fun, but then I realized, man, if I just had on-cap commissions and I worked an entire 4 weeks of every month, there'd be a whole lot more money on the table. So if you remember in The Wolf of Wall Street, there's a scene that really resonated with me where Jonah Hill is talking to Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's like, how much did you make last month? He's like, and he's just sipping his coffee right there. They're just in a little cafe. And he goes, yeah, $72,000. He's like, $72,000? He's like, you show me a check for $72,000 right now, I'm going to quit my job and come work for you. And even though that wasn't me in that movie, I felt like it was speaking to me. I was like, I need to go find an opportunity somewhere where I can have on-cap commissions and I can go from making $7,000 a month to $70,000 a month, right? And even if I didn't hit that goal, it was still this idea of, hey, we're cutting you off. You're making too much money. That was just infuriating to me. So I saw this movie and then literally started searching Craigslist, found an insurance job, selling mortgage protection, life insurance, final expense. And that was how I got started. So Ryan Kimball mentioned he's always interested. How did people get into the insurance industry? Well, the Wolf of Wall Street, that he got me in. So that is how I first got in. No. And again, straight out of the movie, right? He's calling direct mail leads. He's setting appointments. It was almost a surreal experience for me, right? As I jump in head first, I know nothing about the insurance industry. I know sales very well. I trust my sales ability. And it was, a small office, 10 cubicles. We're getting direct mail leads. And primarily, that, we're setting appointments at least half the week, right? If you're doing your own appointment setting, if you're following up with your leads, if you're qualifying your leads, if you're following up on an application that fell off the books and you're doing it all yourself, and if you don't have any staff, that's a lot of phone work, right? Who spends more than 20 hours a week on the phone or 15 to 20 hours a week on the phone, right? Yeah, I mean, it's extremely time consuming. So, and that's a real picture of me, by the way. I'm not sure if you can tell, but that's actually me after being in insurance for 2 years. But so, I learned the process, figured out how to make money, no longer capped commissions. But the next problem I encountered was the lead flow that was being controlled by the agency I was at. It started to have some issues. And I'm realizing, this is my livelihood. At the time, I have 3 kids now, but at the time I had 2 children and a wife, and I'm thinking, how am I supposed to take care of my family if the lead flow disappears and I can't get in front of prospects anymore? What do I do? How do I make money? And then on top of that, the agency manager at the time, he started working my leads before me and then giving me the leads. Yeah. So, and I specifically started, I just talked to an agent, and you hear that, right? You'll hear that from time to time with a lead. I mean, people respond to market. We've done a ton of marketing at Lead Heroes. People will respond to marketing, and then they'll respond to someone else's marketing the next day. So I didn't think too much of it, but I remember specifically dialing these leads, and then finally after the 3rd or 4th one in a row, I said, hey, by the way, who was that last agent that you spoke to? And then they said my agency manager's name, and I was like, okay. I was like, we got to figure this out. So, part of my journey was reading the 4-Hour Work. Who's read the 4-Hour Work Week? So I've given this book out to friends, family members, associates. I absolutely love this book. And the first thing that I hear when I give this book out is, okay, Glenn, 4 hours, come on. Like I can't only work 4 hours. That's not what the title is. It's a clickbait, right? They're trying to draw you in. Tim Ferriss is trying to draw you in. He wants you to read it because it sounds impossible, but it's not necessarily the idea of not working at all or only working 4 hours a week, but it's about outsourcing all of the things inside your business so you don't have to be stuck doing it. You can actually work on your business instead of being trapped inside and working in your business. And it's a subtle, it sounds like the same thing when I say it that way, and it sounds like a small difference, but it's a huge difference, especially when you're talking about the revenue that gets generated from these activities that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. If I'm on the phone doing appointment setting, I can outsource that for $15, $20 an hour, right? You can find someone to take over your phone calls, and you don't have to do all of these low revenue generating activities. So highly recommend this book if anybody's looking for additional information about kind of what I'm talking about today. Man, I need a virtual assistant to run my clicker here. Okay. So after I'm transitioning out of the agency and I realize, okay, I need to stop spending all my week on the phone. I need help setting appointments. I need help generating leads. How am I going to do this? Who's going to do this for me? So I started hiring. I started hiring all over, you guys. My very first hire was actually Jamaica, believe it or not. I fell in love with this girl's accent. I'm like, everyone's going to say yes when she calls. Unfortunately, it didn't work out with her. I tried hiring here in the States. I had multiple people making calls for me. India, Pakistan, South America, I've tried. So I've tried hiring people all over to make calls. But ultimately, the Philippines is where I found the highest quality talent, the best value based on the money that I was spending to outsource these activities, these low revenue generating activities. So again, proof that I had hair, you guys. Just wanted to make sure everyone saw that. And I went to the source. So it's easy to find people online. You can go online. There's several different websites. You can find people who will connect you with virtual assistants overseas. There's a plethora of options out there. But after this was about a year into working with my Filipino team, I really wanted to go over there. I wanted to see what it was all about. I wanted to connect with the source. I really wanted to understand their culture better, to really help facilitate the connection between what they were doing and what they were doing for me. And at this point, I had already found many agents that needed help too with the same problems I was having. And what started with one caller had quickly grown into 15, 20 callers within the first year. And that's how Lead Heroes got started. That is the origin story of my company, you guys. So wanted to take a minute and kind of explain that to you. So we were established in 2016. This year, we're going to cross 1 million leads generated. But between leads, appointments, transfers, we are going to cross 1 million this year. Thank you. Yeah. Super proud of my team. I wish, and again, that's not something I could do by myself, right? 1 million calls like that, it's impossible. So really, the credit goes out to my team. I have an incredible team. I would put my team up against any other team out there. Absolutely incredible what they're able to accomplish. Also in 2016, when I started Lead Heroes, there was this vacuum, and it doesn't exist like it did before, but there was a huge vacuum of information when it came to training material. I mean, here we are today. We have some of the best, the most elite people in the Medicare industry here in the room. You can talk to them. You can listen to their presentations. It's incredible. Like, I was thinking a lot about it since I've been here. Like, if I could go back in time, I would have killed to be at a conference. Like, it just didn't exist. It just didn't exist. The information was far and few between. So what we did at Lead Heroes, since at this point we had already had a client base of insurance agents that we were working with, we started asking questions. We said, hey, what script, when you're on the phone with a lead, what do you say? Are you selling over the phone, or are you selling in person? What do you say when you're selling in person versus selling over the phone? And we got hundreds of responses. We only took the best responses, and we included it in this book. So this isn't just my opinion or my scripts or what I said when I was selling insurance. This is a collective effort of more than 35 different agents across the U.S. who sell final expense and Medicare supplements to seniors. So more than 100 ratings, as you can see, 4.5 stars. If you didn't get a copy, we have more than enough copies here to give everybody a copy of this book. So if you need one, find me. I'd be happy to give you one. All right, so back to the 1,000% ROI, right? The impossible return of investment on your money that seems like a lie. It seems like it can't possibly be real. So I want to start here. Raise your hand. Who agrees that a Medicare client is worth $1,000 or more lifetime client value? Would you say that's fair? Lifetime, so renewals, yeah. And Jason's doing this. Jason's saying, no, it's more. I 100% agree. If you asked me this question, I would probably say $1,500 to $1,800. So I'm going to generously round down for the sake of what I'm presenting, and 1,000, that's easy math, right? It's easy to do 1,000 plus 1,000. So for the sake of the argument, though, and everyone raise their hand, $1,000 is the lifetime client value of a Medicare client. So I asked the Six Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group. By the way, if you're not in the Six Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group and you're here, what are you doing? Right, Christian? There we go. So I asked you guys. I said, hey, if you're spending your whole day selling, you're not doing anything else. You are just getting in front of seniors, prospects. You're trying to close new clients. How many hours does it take you, right? What's your time worth? I'm trying to take an algebra equation and show you guys exactly what your time is worth on an hourly basis, right? So I gave 5 options. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours to generate one client if you are full-time focused just on generating new clients. So I was kind of, this wasn't the exact number that I thought, but what do you guys think about it? So the number one was 2 hours. Who thinks 2 hours is a fair number? What do you think? You think less or, okay, let's go down each. So who thinks it's 1 hour? Raise your hand if you think it takes 1 hour of your focus selling to generate a client. Okay, nobody. Okay, who says 2 hours to generate a client? Okay. 3 hours. 4 hours. 5 hours. Okay, so I'm at 5. So, you know what was interesting, I don't have it here in my slideshow, my PowerPoint presentation, but there was a gal who commented on the poll, and she said that even when she's sitting in a kiosk location, like inside a grocery store, she's still averaging about once every 3 hours. I thought that was, that's not like a pre-qualified appointment where you've got 10 appointments scheduled that day. That's just you're sitting there, cold traffic, you're talking to people as they're walking by. So I thought that was a fair number. But I actually, with the math that I'm about to show you guys, I actually did it on 4 hours. I wanted to be conservative. Again, I want to give you guys real information, right? I want this to really make sense. I want to set the bar to a point where you guys can easily clear it. And honestly, what you're going to see is that 1,000% can potentially be a low number. So if you're like me and you're spending 20 hours a week on the phone, and I asked you guys earlier, most of you here said you were. Most of you said you were spending 15 to 20 hours a week on the phone. So if you could outsource that, and you still have some admin work, you still have some time you've got to put in on the phone, but you're able to go from 15 to 20 hours a week down to 4. By outsourcing phone work to someone else at $15 an hour, 20 hours a week, that's only $300. Well, a lifetime client value of $1,000 per client, if you're able to spend your time and you go from 20 hours of selling each week to 36 hours of selling each week, you just significantly increase your gross revenue on a weekly basis. Because the way the math works, if you're averaging every 4 hours of selling, if you're averaging one client, that's $250 in gross revenue per hour. So if that's the number, and again, a lot of people said it was 2 hours, right? So if 2 hours, that would be $500 of gross lifetime client value revenue per hour. So why, if this, does everyone agree? Does this math look correct? Am I crazy? So if this is the reality, why are we spending our time on low revenue generating activities? Why are you guys doing data entry, right? That's like the most basic, simple task ever. And it kills me too in some of the Facebook groups. I'll see people bragging about some of these low revenue generating activities like, oh man, I spent all day on this. What do you guys think? It's like, well, I think you probably could have made 10 times more money if you'd let someone else do it and you didn't try to do it all yourself. This would be the math if you are averaging 2 hours. So after I did the poll, And the majority, over 60% said they were able to generate a client every 2 hours. Now you're talking about a 2,000% or higher return on investment on your money. Again, you're paying someone to do the low revenue generating activities so you can focus on the high revenue generating activities, which is ultimately going to increase your top line and your bottom line. So one of the key questions we'll get at Lead Heroes is, what can a virtual assistant do? Okay, Glenn, I get it. If I outsource some of these tasks to someone else, I can focus on my high revenue generating activities. If you're an agency owner, that doesn't necessarily just mean selling, right? That could also mean recruiting. Could also, that could include training new agents, right? This is just a basic list of things. There is an incredible amount of things that a virtual assistant can do for you. Some of the most common ones that we're doing right now, email management. Christian and I talk on a regular basis. He tells me how many emails he gets, and I get a little nauseous every time he tells me. I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? He's like, I have 900 emails. I have to go, Glenn. I'm like, okay, you need to get to that. So managing your emails, managing your calendar, scheduling appointments, customer service. This could be inbound or outbound phone calls. Social media management. How many people have more than 4 or more than 3 social media platforms, right? Yeah, a lot of us, right? I'm on probably 4 or 5 different platforms. It is very difficult as one person who is busy all the time to stay in front of my social media platforms. If I get a message from someone and it's like, hey, Glenn, I really want to buy something, and I don't see it, it's easy for them to go buy from someone else. So that's lost revenue. If I miss a message, it's really priceless to me to have someone monitor my social media for me. And typically what happens, and again, using Christian as an example, when we set him up with a virtual assistant, is one of the first things he came back and said to me was, wow, Glenn, this person can do a lot more for me than I realized. And that's actually more common than you would think. More often than you would realize, you're going to find things as you start to outsource. And again, whether you're working with us or you find someone else, or maybe you bring someone internally as an assistant, they're in your office and they're handling these low revenue, I know you're probably sick of hearing me say these words, these low revenue generating activities, you're going to realize, oh wow, there's all these things that I've been doing I didn't have to be doing. And maybe you don't want to spend your whole week selling, and that's fine. You can take that freed up time and you can focus on your personal life, focus on your family, right? You can do whatever you want, essentially, right? It really is true freedom. So again, this is just a basic list of some of the tasks. There's a huge plethora of different things that a virtual assistant can really do for you in your business and really free up your time. Now here's another one that we get all the time. Okay, I get it, but they have to be licensed to do most of these activities, right? They don't. They do not. So one as an example that I think there's a lot of confusion around is calling a carrier for a customer service related issue, right? A lot of times as an agent you think, okay, if I'm communicating with a carrier, surely that person has to be licensed. But again, if it's just a customer service related issue, it doesn't. That can be anyone. And who here's, and I know this one's true, who here has been on hold with a carrier for more than an hour before? Oh, everybody. Okay, yeah, I hear that all the time. I've been on hold with, I'm not going to mention any specific carriers, but I've been on hold with blah, blah. I mean, that is every day, right? So imagine not having to waste your time on hold. What are you doing on hold? You're not doing anything when you're on hold, right? Unless you're a great multitasker, I guess. But now, how do you find a virtual assistant? So, like I said before, there's just a ton of different options when it comes to job platforms, where you can either post a job ad or, some of these different platforms might even help facilitate connecting you with someone. So whether you're working with us or someone else, I just implore you guys to figure out how can you stop doing these basic low revenue generating activities and figure out a way that someone else can do them. Now, how do I train a virtual assistant? And this one can be difficult, right? This is where I think a lot of people get tripped up. They might find someone that's quality, but then they have trouble actually training them to do what it is that they want them to do. So at Lead Heroes, our internal process, we have a lot of written content, but we also have a lot of video content where they can go through, they can watch a video of what the task is that we want them to do. And then if they get confused, they can go back and they can watch the video again, or they can even take a look at the written content. Maybe it's just something as simple as bullet points. Maybe you've compiled something more complex. Maybe it's a true training manual, right? Again, at Lead Heroes internally, we have a 50-plus page training manual for our new hires that they have to get through, plus over 30 hours of training video content before they can even get in the door. So that's not something that happened overnight either, right? That's something that we've continuously added to and built on. And so don't get overwhelmed by the idea or the concept of having to train a virtual assistant. One task at a time. You can slowly build and add to it. And then how do you manage someone that's not physically in your office? If you can't see them? And this was something, you guys, that I personally struggled with a lot. I will never forget the feeling of that very first person that I hired overseas, the gal in Jamaica that I mentioned. I remember thinking, walking around my house, I'm like, I can't see her. How do I know she's working? How do I know that she's even doing what I asked her to do? And then on top of it, I'm committing to paying her. And it sounds daunting. It sounds scary. It sounds like you're going to get ripped off, right? Well, it's 2022. And thank goodness we have technology that can really help facilitate and ease the legitimacy of a virtual employee and their work. So there is software that can record their screen and send you screenshots. And so you have proof. Okay, and I mean, again, there's a lot of different softwares out there that can do that. But you can set it up. You can say, okay, every 2 minutes, I want you to take a picture of their computer screen so I can go back and look. And so, maybe it's something where you're only auditing, especially if it's a trusted employee at this point, someone that's already had success. Maybe you're just auditing when you're worried, right? Hey, this doesn't look right. They were working all week and this didn't get done. I'm going to go back through and look at their work history. Or you could get to the point like we are, where we have virtual assistants who audit other virtual assistants. It's Inception level status. We're several layers deep at this point. But yeah, it's and a task list as well. So, again, trying to keep things simple, right? Here's what I need you to do, and here's how I can check that you did it. Obviously, we do a lot of call center related tasks and activities. And that's another easy way of being able to verify if a virtual assistant actually performed their activities. I can see how long they were logged into the dialer for. I can listen to all the recordings of the calls they were making. Oh man, they sounded like they were asleep on the phone. What's going on, right? So this just comes up all the time. So I just really want to drive this point home. Don't stress over this idea that just because someone's not in front of you or in your office, that doesn't mean that they can't do all the work that you want them to do. It is very much so possible for them to get everything done that you want them to do. So I'm about to announce something that I have not publicly announced anywhere yet. So I was saving this one for the Six Figure Medicare Agent Conference. So at Lead Heroes in Q1 of 2021, we started offering a more robust virtual assistant service. Before Q1 2021, everything was call center related that we did. Again, appointment setting, lead generation, live transfers. There was maybe some inbound traffic on the phone that we would handle. But we kept getting asked these questions, and really the pandemic just accelerated I think, the timeline on this, but we wanted to create something that can do all of these things for you. So what we've done is we actually hired a group of developers, and we put together our own platform. So this isn't just a vetted virtual assistant. This is a vetted virtual assistant that's going to have all of the tools built into it. All of the tools that I just covered on how to hire, train, and manage a virtual assistant, all in one platform. So you don't have to try to piece together everything like we've been doing for years. So we have a couple different videos of the software I just wanted to show you guys. Okay, so this is the messaging part of the platform, several different ways that you'll be able to communicate. You can text. There's the ability to record a voice note. That's one of my preferred ways of communicating with my team. You can attach documents, and you can even do video calls. That's me and Nathan chatting on our software. All right, let's see if we can get through these next ones. So I mentioned task lists earlier, right? Might sound old school, a to-do list, but the concept, again, here is that you can create tasks, you can prioritize them, you can define them, you can set due dates on when they need to be done, you can attach documents, and then you can share that right there on our software platform with your virtual assistant. So you're communicating with them, you're setting the tasks that you want them to do, and then I think the next one is going to be going into kind of the training part of it. So one of the most successful ways that we've trained virtual assistants at Lead Heroes is through doing screen recording, right? Whether it's yourself or you're just recording your screen, this is something that we've actually built into the software. So you can, while you're logged in, you can record your screen, and then you can immediately upload it, and your virtual assistant can have access to what it is. Because what happens, again, from my time and experience doing this, you're going to constantly find new things or current tasks that you're currently having them do are going to evolve. They're going to change. So you might get someone trained to where you're very happy with what they're doing, but then you might need to go in and make another quick edit. Hey, I need you to do it a little differently this time. And so we really wanted to give you some ease of use with being able to do the screen recording and immediately share it to your virtual assistant. I think there's one more, or 25. I think it's 25. Yeah, so this is the last video. So going through, again, what I mentioned earlier, being able to actually see what it is your virtual assistant has been working on, verifying that they are doing what they said they were doing. So seeing reports of the hours they've worked, what it is they've worked on, including screenshots from their actual desktop, right? Being able to actually see, okay, what did you have pulled up when our software took a random screenshot? So that is Hire Heroes 1.0. We already have 2.0 in the works with some more exciting features that we plan on having come out. The last slide here, there's a QR code. So if you guys are interested, you want to try this out completely for free for 40 hours, you can actually scan that QR code with your phone, and it's going to take you to a quick 4 or 5 question survey. You fill out that survey, and then typically within 3 to 5 business days, we will have someone who we have personally vetted to connect you with on our software platform. And again, this is at $15 per hour or less. So the idea is you can stop doing your low revenue generating activities, focus on your high revenue generating activities, and start making more than 1,000% on the money you're spending. I really appreciate everybody's time.
Whoa. Well, we got time for just a couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to start actually right here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Glen. My question is this. I've used you guys in the past. Love it. Thank you. My question is, I'm debating if I want to use your services for AEP to call my book of business.
Yeah.
The concern I have is sometimes my customers complain about when there's customer service being done in another country, the language barrier.
Sure.
Talk to me about my concerns about the
Yeah.
language barrier that my customers.
Great question, and we get it all the time. I appreciate that question. So, when we're hiring someone, I personally will vet their level of English. So part of the application process for someone to come and work with us at Lead Heroes when they're applying from overseas is that they actually have to submit recordings so I can hear their voice. Once I've cleared them, they then go to an interview stage where someone from my team then interviews them, make sure that it's legitimate. They didn't just send in, right, some random recordings. And then after that, they're going through our whole training process. So, if I were to call my bank, this is an example I use all the time. I bank with Chase. That's one of the banks I work with. It's very common for me to be connected to someone overseas. I think it's actually India that I'm speaking to most of the time. And yeah, there's some level of accent there, but again, my bank, my financials, that's something that's very intimate. That's something I don't really want to share with a lot of people, but I understand what's going on, and it's conversationally fluent, right? It's enough to the point where even though I know they're overseas, I'm not having an issue communicating with them. And that's really, I feel that we've achieved that standard with our entire staff. I feel that everyone is conversationally fluent. Now, mind you, there's probably some places in maybe the deep south where there might be more of an accent or more of a barrier, right? Where it might be hard for communication. So it's not necessarily perfect, but I do feel that we have achieved with our entire staff a conversationally and fluency where they can communicate with the average senior without any issue. I do think part of the issue that you mentioned there, though, is there's so many call centers, and some of them, right, they're just letting anybody who wants to work come in the door. There's no screening process. There's no vetting. And that sometimes the poor accents can leave a bad taste in seniors' mouths. So that's something that we've really been trying to screen out since the beginning. So I appreciate your question, but I highly recommend it. We can definitely do that. We're doing that for agents already.
Cool. Got one right here from Jackie.
Hey, fellow
Hey.
Oregonian. Whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Hey, I might have missed this, but is there a minimum number of hours that we have to use per week or per month?
Yes, I appreciate you asking that. So we're working on potentially lowering this more, but right now it's set at 20 hours. And the reason for that, again, this is a virtual assistant that they want to be dedicated. They want to, the less moving parts, the better, right? I want them to be efficient. I want them to be focused on you, your business, and the tasks that you want done. So it's possible that in the near future, we could be lowering that. I see smiling, Lisa. To something smaller where if it's project-based and you just need someone for a few hours. But as of right now, today, it's a 20-hour minimum. Yes? It's 20 hours a week, 80 hours a month. Yeah.
Are you strictly just working with Medicare agents, or like if we have a doctor that needs a virtual assistant, can we refer them to you?
Absolutely, yeah. So we can work outside of insurance. Obviously, we have a huge wheelhouse of knowledge when it comes to insurance and a lot of agents we work with. But yeah, absolutely, we can work outside insurance. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So part of our terms of service with Hire Heroes, and you'll actually be able to see this on our website, we have taken out $1 million cyber liability policy because this is such a common question we get. What happens if private information were to get leaked to the point where it was damaging, right? Obviously, that's a possibility with anybody you work with. So we are taking on that liability 100%. And part of our vetting process when we bring that virtual assistant on is we're trying to make sure that's never an issue to begin with. But if something were to happen, we're accepting full liability.
We got time for one more.
Yeah, one more.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So are we able to listen to the virtual assistant, especially if we have them involved in phone calls?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Can we do that on an ongoing basis?
yeah, so again, in the software that you just saw, you can actually get on the phone. You can talk to them. You can talk to them face to face. You can, there's even voice recording that you guys can send back and forth. But yeah, absolutely.
But on a call with the client,
So that's specific to the software. So how are you currently, when you're calling clients right now, what software do you typically use? Just your cell phone? Yeah. So there's so much, and obviously this is coming up a lot, you guys, with the new CMS guidelines and with Medicare Advantage having to record every single call. But there's a lot of different software platforms that, so like Ring Central. So it's just a matter of finding the right platform. But once you're on the right platform, 100%, yeah, you can do that.
to hire an assistant, that is the same person that will be working with you exclusively, not exclusively, but on.
Correct. Yeah. So the goal isn't to have a new person every other day, right? Yeah, because then it's just that jug. So yeah, it's a dedicated person to you. They're not working for someone else, right? And with the call recording, it really depends on the software you're using. But I'd be more than happy to help you set that up if that was something that.
Cool, I've talked to, besides me, I've actually talked to Ring Central.
Perfect. There
Thank
you
you,
go.
sir.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, thank
Give it
you
up.
guys.